The Tech Plan ACO is ideal for coordinated control of Liebert AC systems to provide redundancy. It was designed with the Liebert units in mind, but it could also work for pumps or other systems that use a dry contact for control. When the ACO controller detects an alarm on an operating unit, the ACO enables a standby unit and, depending on the configuration, either leaves the unit in alarm operating or shuts it down. The ACO has an audible alarm that can be silenced via a button on the front. New alarms after an existing alarm has been silenced will restart the audible alarm. A cooling stat can be wired to the ACO to enable an additional unit to run if room temperature reaches the setting on the stat. This is called cascade mode. The ACO controller can also balance usage of devices by rotating units through operating and standby modes according to a user-defined schedule. This helps keep redundant equipment operating efficiently and only when needed. The ACO has an on-auto switch for each unit to make it easy to override the ACO function for maintenance without having to configure the ACO. The ACO is very easy to configure using buttons and an LCD display on the inside of the front panel. No computer is needed. The blue button text above the buttons describes their function when the Run Config switch is in run. The black arrows and text below the buttons describe their functions when the Run Config switch is in config.
The Run Config switch should only be in the config position while actually configuring the unit or to check when the next unit rotation is scheduled to take place. When the Run Config switch is in the config position, the ACO logic is paused. The heartbeat LED will not cycle. If the Run Config switch is left in the config position for 10 minutes, the summary alarm contact will close and the audible alarm will start sounding. The silence button will not silence the alarm in this case. Only placing the Run Config switch back into run or turning the ACO off will silence the alarm.
Let's talk about navigating the configuration. The buttons above the up and down arrows scroll through the configuration menu. When you see a parameter that needs to be changed, press the Enter or left arrow button and that will take you to the edit screen for the parameter. The up and down arrows are used now to adjust the parameter value. Use the ESC button to go back to the configuration menu. When you are finished with the configuration, place the Run Config switch back to run.
The ACO is available as a 2-unit model, ACO 2, or a 3-unit model, ACO 3. Also, if you currently have a Liebert AC4 controller, Tech Plan has a kit to replace the electronics in the AC4 enclosure with the ACO 2 or ACO 3 electronics. This is much easier than replacing the whole unit.
Now we will talk about the different parameters. Unit count. This parameter tells the ACO how many units are connected to it. This only applies to the 3-unit model, ACO 3. If the ACO 3 is only being used on 2 units, connect them to inputs and outputs 1 and 2. Minimum units to run. This sets the minimum number of units needed to cool the space. For instance, you may have 3 units on an ACO but only need 1 to cool the space. You could set this to 1 and have 2 backups and share runtime among 3 units. If you set this to 2 on a 2-unit system, both units would stay on at all times. Likewise, if you set this to 3 on a 3-unit system, all units would stay on at all times. Next rotation year, month, date, hour, minute. This is where you can set the date and time for the next lead lag rotation. If the rotation frequency parameter is set for 0, these menu items will not display because that inhibits lead lag rotation. This automatically gets set when the ACO does a scheduled rotation based on rotation frequency. Rotation frequency, this is where you can set the frequency in hours for the lead/lag rotation. For example, if you wanted the rotation to take place at the same time once a week, you would set this to 168 hours. The logic of lead lag rotation is, if the current date time is greater than the scheduled rotation date time, then a lead lag rotation will occur and schedule the next rotation for the current time plus the rotation frequency. This is notable because if the ACO is off for a period of time and the stored rotation date is earlier than now, when the ACO is powered on, a lead lag rotation will occur and the next scheduled one may not be at a desired time. If that is the case, set the lead lag rotation using the menus. Note, using the Swap Now button to cause a lead lag rotation will not affect the next rotation date time. Alarm unit will run or shut down. The unit that goes into alarm can be set to either keep running or shut down. The default is to leave the unit in alarm running, but ductwork limitations may dictate that it is better to shut down the unit in alarm. Unit run mode. Here you have two options, lead lag or always on. In lead lag mode, the unit will be part of the rotation with the other units. If it is set to always on, it will always be commanded to run and lead lag functions will continue with the other units. Cascade minimum run time. This sets the minimum time, in minutes, that a cascade unit will run if the cascade stat closes. This is to prevent excessive unit on-off cycling because of the room meeting setpoint temperature after the cascade unit starts. Hold delay. Hold delay is the amount of time that the alarm input will be ignored after a unit is started by the ACO. This is to give the unit time to stabilize after starting. This does not apply to the loss of power input. Alarm delay. This is the time the ACO waits when an alarm is received before starting a unit, sounding the buzzer, and latching the alarm. The alarm LED will flash during this delay. Cascade summary alarm. You can configure the ACO to trigger the summary alarm contact when running in cascade mode.
That is the basic rundown of TechPlan's ACO solution. Thank you for watching and feel free to contact with questions. Don't forget to like this video.